What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. So I just wanted to make a quick video for you guys. Wanted to kind of talk about playoff scenarios, okay? I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what's the circumstances behind what the Colts are able to do to get into the playoffs. Okay, we're already in the leading spot in the wild card. Basically, if the playoffs were to stop right now, we would have another matchup against the Buffalo Bills. So, rematch there would be pretty fun. Going back into the first round again, Buffalo Bills and the Colts. It'll be interesting. So, we'll see. But I kind of wanted to talk real quick about, depending on what the Colts do, what hope do they have of making the playoffs, right? So here's what we do. Okay, so obviously now what you have here, the Colts are at 9-6, right? Same as the New England Patriots. As it stands right now, here's how it works. So the Chiefs are 11-4, Titans are 10-5, the Bengals and the Bills are 9-6. They round out the division winners, right? The only way the Colts win the division at this point is if the Colts win their last two games and the Titans lose both games. It's the only way the Colts win the division. I don't see that happening. It could happen, but I highly doubt it. Okay, so because the Titans know how close they are to rounding that out. So we won't even really talk about the division, right? And then the Colts are 9-6, Patriots are 9-6, Ravens are 8-7. They round out the wild card. At this moment in time, there are only two teams that I am concerned about jumping us in the playoff spot right now. There's only two teams. And I mean, at this point, I really don't even think that we would have an issue at this point, because even if the Dolphins win and are 9-7, I mean, they could potentially jump us, but I mean, at that point, if one of these other two teams in front of them would jump it anyways. So here's what's going on, okay? So, and this is where the Dolphins could come in, because the Dolphins have to play. I'm going to have to look at this real quick. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. So the Dolphins, I think, have to play the Patriots. And, and so we'll move forward with that. I mean, who knows? The Patriots could, potentially lose a spot, facing the Dolphins. Who knows? It'll be very interesting, but let's talk about this real quick. So needless to say, everybody knows this at this point. If the Colts win out, they're in. They're not losing their spot. So that's the ultimate point here. So if the Colts were to lose their last two games, let's just say theoretically, I don't think this is going to happen, but it has a chance, because, you've seen crazy things happen in the NFL. Let's just say, hypothetically, the Colts lose their last two games against the Raiders and against Jacksonville. Then the Colts would go 9-8. Only way that they would make it into the playoffs is if the Browns were to lose one more game, if the Broncos were to lose one more game. Actually, the Broncos, I don't think, have to lose one more game. They would have the same record as us, but we have the better AFC record. The same with the Browns. But the Steelers with their tie, who are in the 11th place at this point, if they were to win their last two games, they would get in over the Indianapolis Colts. The Dolphins would do the same thing, and the Raiders and the Chargers all would have a shot. So basically means if the Colts lose both games, then, the Colts are out. We kind of expected that, right? Well, you kind of have to look at it now from the perspective that where do we go from here, right? And I'm going to just go ahead and take a look at this. Yeah, conference record, and then conference record there. Okay, good. So let's say Colts this week. Let's say the Colts lose this game potentially. Let's say they lose this game. So they would go to 9-7. The only way that they would, the reason they would lose their playoff spot, if they lost this game on Sunday, they would lose the spot to the Raiders simply because of the fact that they would ultimately have the better conference record. The Chargers are 5-5 this year against the AFC. The Raiders are 6-4 against the AFC. I think it's just because the Chargers beat the Raiders the first time against them, and I get that. But ultimately, again, when you have three teams, so say theoretically the Chargers win and the Raiders win this week, and the Colts would lose, the Raiders would jump into the 7th seed in the playoffs for that time being. And then the Colts would be in the 8th spot because of the fact that, again, they would be in the 8th spot because they'd have the better record over the Chargers. So that's why they would jump that spot. So this game is very important because if the Colts lose it, there's no guarantee that, they're going to do anything against it. And, when it comes to the Ravens' next opponent, I want to look at this. The Ravens are going to have to face the Rams. So, who knows? Maybe they do lose. The only way the Colts would stay in the playoff picture is if somehow the Patriots lose against the Jaguars, which we don't anticipate that happening. So if the Colts lose, the Patriots win, they would move up ahead of us into the 5th spot. And if the Ravens win, then they would move up into the 6th spot. And the Raiders would move to the 7th spot, and the Colts would move to the 8th spot and down and away. That would happen. Unless the Ravens lose to the Rams in this next game, and then the Colts, even if they lose, should maintain that 7th spot in the wild card. Should maintain that. So, needless to say, if you are a Colts fan, you are rooting for the Rams on Sunday. You are rooting for the Rams hardcore on Sunday. We need them to beat the Ravens. Because remember, the Ravens beat us in the head-to-head. So if the Ravens have the same record as us, they would get the advantage in that spot. So let's just say the Colts do win the game against the Raiders. Let's say that. And then let's say the Chargers go and beat the Broncos. Okay, let's say they do. Okay, so they would still be 9-7. We would be 10-6. We expect the Patriots to win at 10 and be 10-6. Colts will remain in the 5th spot. And then if the Ravens win 9-7, and they go 9-7, then the only way that the Colts would, and even then, even if the Colts have somehow lost to the Jaguars in the next week, even if the Chargers won both games, the Chargers would not get in because the Chargers do not have the same, would not have a better AFC record than the Colts. The Colts would be 8-3 or 8-4 if they were to lose to the Jaguars in the AFC. The Chargers would go 7-5. So the Colts would still maintain playoff picture. Okay? So basically, if the Colts beat the Raiders, it's almost a guarantee that they get in. Pretty much a guarantee at that point. So when you look at it, let's say they don't win and they end up going 9-7 and they need to beat Jacksonville, and they beat Jacksonville and go 10-7. So the only way that they would get ahead of somebody is if the Patriots lose against the Dolphins in week 17. If the Patriots lose in week 18, that would be week 18. If the Patriots lost to the Dolphins, then that puts the Colts in a better position. That would put the Colts ahead of the Patriots and keeping them in the playoffs, regardless if the Ravens won both weeks. So say the Ravens beat the Steelers and the Rams, they go 10-7. The Ravens would jump ahead of the Colts, right? Because they have the head-to-head. So they would jump into the 5th spot. And then the Colts would jump into the 6th spot because they would still be 10-7 because they beat the Patriots, and the Patriots would be 10-7, and the Patriots would maintain that spot right there. So ultimately, guys, I mean, the Colts can still make the playoffs even after losing to the Raiders this next week if they do. Obviously, it's playing a lot more of the dice. You're just really hoping that a couple different teams lose along the way. Because, like I said, they would drop out of it, and then you would also have to hope if the Colts lose to the Raiders on Sunday. The Colts are going to need – well, actually, yeah, I mean, the Patriots are going to have to lose, and the Raiders are going to have to lose to the Chargers. So, yeah, I mean, because if the Patriots win their 2 games, then they would be ahead of us. So, if the Colts lose to the Raiders on Sunday, 3 things have to happen to guarantee they get in. They have to ensure that they win. Either the Patriots need to lose or the Raiders need to lose against the Chargers. And the Patriots are playing the Dolphins, which of course is no easy check down for the Patriots either. Might have been early in the season, but right now the Dolphins are one of the hottest teams in the NFL at the moment, playing the way they are. So, again, if the Colts win the game against the Raiders, they could realistically lose to the Jaguars, and there's still almost no way that they get jumped because even if the Chargers win out, beating the Raiders and end up beating the Broncos, it wouldn't matter because the Chargers would still be down because of the AFC record. So that hurts them. So needless to say, if the Colts win this next week, they will be in, basically. Now, if they lose, then, like I said, they would need to win against Jacksonville. They would either need the Patriots to lose or the Raiders to lose. That's basically it at that point. That one of those things would have to happen in order for the Colts to maintain a playoff spot. Because if the Ravens somehow win their next 2 games, then that catapults them ahead of the Colts and probably ahead of the Patriots too, because the Colts would have the advantage over the Patriots. So, a lot of stuff's going to happen here. And obviously, a lot of this could change. We can't predict the future. The Ravens could lose 1 game, win 1 game. Raiders could win 1 game, lose 1 game. And Chargers could do this and this, and then Patriots could do this and this. There's still a lot of moving parts. But, again, the recipe is still set that the Colts, whatever happens, has a recipe to where they can still make the playoffs regardless of which scenario happens. But obviously, losing to the Raiders would mean that there would be a lot more luck that has to come into play. So I hope that was easy enough to understand for you guys. I know that was a lot of information in a short video, but I greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think. Basically, I just reiterated the fact again, and I'll reiterate it now. Colts beat the Raiders on Sunday. They're almost guaranteed to be in. There's almost no chance that they don't get in because even if they lose, the Patriots would jump them. And even if the Ravens went 2-0, they would jump them. But even then, the Raiders and the Chargers, even though the Chargers might have the same record as the Colts still have the better AFC record, so they would stay in. So there's virtually no chance for any of these teams to jump them if the Colts were to win the game against the Raiders. Ultimate thing here is that if the Colts were to lose to the Raiders, then they would have to either have the Patriots lose one game, the Raiders lose one game, or they're going to have to basically hope that the Ravens would lose too. That's going to be the ultimate thing here. And that could be another thing going into play. The Ravens, if they lose to the Rams, that hurts them just as much as anyone. So a lot of big games coming for the AFC wild card this week. A lot's going to happen, guys. So I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for the continued support. And as always, go Colts.